NLTP Act has been implemented for the goodness and for the best intentions for the state of Nagaland to ban the alcoholism as well as the productions of alcoholism in Nagaland. In the 80s, when the people were being addicted to the alcohol, the churches as well as the women society, the women welfare society, has come to an intention that they must take a step to ban alcohol, to save the state, to save the people from this alcohol, which has led to health diseases, cancer, as well as problems in the family. We also look upon that the churches as well as the women society welfare are not the only one who has to take the step, but it also has to be the government who has to take initial step to this NLTP Act, so that if the government has taken any step towards this NLTP Act, I hope and I believe that there was a way that this NLTP Act was going to be a successful one. With this, I conclude.
Hello. I am representing Shipu Village Students Union, and I'll be speaking against the motion on the Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act of 1989, NLTP Act. And as we already know why, when, or how this act came into being, let me not go back to that again, but start my argument. Ladies and gentlemen, while I acknowledge that the intentions behind the Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act, NLTP Act of 1989 is noble, the society which we are living today is not one where we can say that the act has fulfilled its purpose, and that we must confront the truth. The act has not succeeded its primary objective. In the last 35 years since its inception, the NLTP Act has done nothing good, but instead it has led to corruption, syndicate suppliers, spurious drinking, and consumption of low-quality or adulterated alcohols. We call Nagaland a dry state, when in reality, alcohol is sold openly everywhere in Nagaland, including along our national highways, our public places, near our government institutions and offices and educational institutions. And you can find it being sold in broad daylight without any regard for age or legal status. And the NLTP Act wonders, while we follow the rules, the politicians and sadly even our student leaders generously shares prohibited refreshments during election campaigns, and our own security forces run their own special counter for the people of Satakha. And I have friends who became addicted to alcohol at a very young age, and it all started when they were able to purchase alcohol without any issue despite being underage and shockingly even wear in their school uniform. And I have personally seen the devastating effect of alcohol on my own family and on my relatives. And the problem is compounded by the fact that the alcohol sold is either adulterated or mixed with dangerous substances to increase its potency. And I believe the situation could have been otherwise. Without this NLTP Act, we could implement effective regulations such as licensing and monitoring of sales, ensuring that the alcohol is sold safely and responsibly. How can we say that the NLTP Act is a boon, or even say that it is benefiting the society when this act exists only in papers? We call Nagaland a dry state when actually it is wet with alcohol. And the NLTP Act has become more of a symbolic law than the one that actually upholds its intended purpose. The law has instead given rise to thriving black market that supplies alcohol to every corner of Nagaland. And I believe the people that runs the black market, and in fact, even our neighboring state, might be so grateful that we have this so-called the Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act. Let me make my statement clear. I will fully support the NLTP Act if the act was successful, if the law truly curtailed alcohol sales and effectively protect our people from addiction. But as it stands today, the NLTP Act has become a joke, and the people of Nagaland are the ones paying the price. We are merely deceiving ourselves by pretending that we are protecting our people when in reality alcohol continues to create havoc. And I believe The time has come for us, the Nagas, to look for a more practical, realistic approach to address this grave concern. Thank you very much.
We live in an obscure world where nothing in this world is either good or bad. But this is not a philosophical debate, and I do not wish to make you believe whether alcohol is good or bad. But I would like to state some facts and discuss with you some issues. Alcohol might have a degree of contribution to the revenue generation, but I would also like to shed some light on the evil that alcohol has breeded in our generation. In a data released by the International Journal of Advanced Research in Science, Commerce and Technology, in its 201 research papers, concluded that 50% of criminal crime committed in India were under the influence of alcohol. 40% of criminals incarcerated in India today were abducted under the influence of alcohol. Now, excuse me, I also want to address the member of the House with a concern over the safety and security of our women. The National Crime Bureau record tells us that Nagaland has the record for the lowest crime against women as compared to other states where liquors and alcohol has been legalized. Now, I am not saying that this protection or this safety of our women has to be credited to the prohibition of alcohol. I do agree that Naga men are gentle and respectable in all our aspects, but I do also believe that this prohibition, if we compare to other states who have legalized alcohol, for instance, let us look at Kerala. Now, Kerala, as we know, has the highest literacy, has the highest educated population, has the GDP of 7 times more than our state, generates 136 crores of revenue each year. But if we dig deep enough, we see that the women's safety in Kerala and in other states are very low. Kerala every year faces this. Kerala has a record of setting the highest divorced family, and the cause being alcoholic husbands. Another concern, data released by the World Health Organization, every year 2.6 million people die due to alcohol, where 2 million are male population and 60,000 are female population. Lastly, in regard to our socio-economic growth of our state, the government has been trying its best to promote cultural tourism, where it has been significantly spiked, and it has reached a record of 140 crores in the last Hornbill Festival. And as regard, and I would like to answer. Thank you.
Greetings in the name of Christ Jesus. My name is Kapo from Vishapu village, and I'm here to speak against NLTP Act. As we all know, no country has ever succeeded in prohibiting alcohol. Even liberal country like America has tried to ban alcohol and hasn't succeeded. Also, in recent years, Mizoram, after banning alcohol for 17 years, has lifted banning of alcohol. And so, banning of alcohol is quite impossible. Secondly, alcohol can generate huge revenues for our state, which can be put for development purposes and welfare activities of our state. Thirdly, I would like to state that there have been organized crimes. Small syndicates of bootleggers are selling alcohol at highly adulterated alcohol at high prices, which is affecting the lives of many. And so, if we lift NLTP Act, then sure, this industry can create good alcohol, which is scientifically proven that appropriate consumption of alcohol is good for health. Thirdly, let me end my speech here. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My serial number is 5, and I'm standing here to speak on the motion of the NLTP Act of 1989. Well, the Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act of 1989 is a law enacted by the government of Nagaland, whose aim was to curb alcohol consumption, and its associated social ills has been in effect for over 3 decades. However, the realities of the contemporary Naga society reveals a different outcomes. In most cases, men divert scarce cash to liquor, depriving their women folk and children of money, of better education, food or other basic necessities of life. Because of that, many sink into debt, dragging their families down with them. So what do you think the situation of our Naga society will be if this act were to be removed? Prohibition is not just a morality versus liberty issues. It is also a civil right issues for a women and a children. Therefore, this act is enacted for the society as a whole and individual in the field of social health, prevention of crimes and violence, and to promote peace and development of the state. Prohibition is justified in the plight of thousands of families suffering from the evils of alcoholism. For example, like the state of Bihar, where the analysts reported that the domestic violence, crimes, depression had declined significantly after the state declared liquor prohibition. So why not the people of Nagaland be like them, being declared as a dry state? Even in the word of God said from the book of 1 Peter chapter 4 verse 3 says, drunkards are considered unbelievers. So, I would like to say this to all the people of Nagaland, especially the people of Satakha, that to stop pretending, stop blaming one another, stop fooling yourself, but open our hearts, minds, eyes towards the realities of our drunken society and move towards safe, sound, and progressive Nagaland. Thank you.
I'll be speaking against the motion, the Nagaland State Liquor Total Prohibition Act. First of all, the Nagaland Legislative Assembly is established because it has to do good for the Nagas. So why can't the Nagaland Legislative Assembly pass this bill, abolish this bill, Nagaland State Total Liquor Prohibition Act of 1989? It is because of the pressure from the churches and the women organizations of the Nagaland. So, no hate against the churches or nothing grudges against the churches or the women organizations, but they should focus on the role, and the Nagaland Legislative Assembly should focus on the role. As said by some of the delegates in the Nagaland Legislative Assembly, the churches should focus on providing salvation to the people and not against this act. As an economic student myself, an economy is the driving force of the society. An economy is the driving force that brings the society forward. And yet, because of this Nagaland State Liquor Prohibition Act, we dump our economies in the neighboring state like the Assam, and today we invade the economy, the development, the sceneries and the beauty of our neighboring states because we are not allowed to collect taxes or we are not allowed to establish our economy because of the Nagaland State Liquor Prohibition Act. Thousands and hundreds lakhs and crores of revenues are collected through Nagaland, through this alcohol in the other states. Why can't the Nagaland do this? By implementing such policies, we can by lifting the NLTP Act, we can collect the revenues from the wine stores and producing this alcohol, and we can invest this in the human capital so that our society can grow. We can invest it in schools. We can invest it in human capital. We can invest in our future. But because of this NLTP Act, we cannot do that. Health is wealth. By producing that, by buying that adulterated product from the neighboring states, we are not being able to, our society, there are many health issues and problems faced by our society. And not only those activities, but this Nagaland Liquor Prohibition Act of 1989, since inception, has been harming our society, and we need to do away with that. Today, the literates, the philosophers, and everybody knows that this act has not been productive to our society. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. I am representing the Rukui Students' Union, and I stand here to speak in motion for the NLTP Act of 1989. We have all seen the negative impact the alcoholism problem has caused in our society, be it the illegal criminal activities or health hazard and social issues. Wherever alcohol is prevalent, issues like crimes, suicide, mental disorders, social problems, and domestic violence often arise. Alcohol does not make a home a happy home, nor helps make an ideal society. Instead, it hinders individuals' life. As we all know, the Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition NLTP Act of 1989 is a law that prohibits the sale, consumption, possession, and manufacturing of alcohol in Nagaland. This act has its dominance in various areas. This act has its dominance in various areas. One of the primary benefits is the reduction in health issues related to the consumption of spirituous liquor. By prohibiting the sale of alcohol, One of the primary benefits of this act is the reduction in health issues related to the consumption of spirituous liquor. By prohibiting the sale of liquor, this act helps to protect the health and well-being of the people of Nagaland. Another advantage of this act is its potential to generate revenue for the state. Although this act prohibits the sale of liquor, it allows for the collection of revenue from other sources such as excise duties on other goods. This act also has several social benefits, particularly for women and children. By prohibiting the sale of liquor, By prohibiting the sale of liquor, this act aims to reduce domestic violence, poverty, and thank you.
I would like to start by saying to corrupt something is to do more than changing the main essence or nature of that thing, but distribute of its utility, its functions, and its pleasures. Thank you. My opponent have mentioned that NLTP Act of 1989 have started and came into action because there were so many alcohol cases alcohol abuse, divorce rate, domestic violence during the 1980s. But after the Act of 1989, has alcohol abuse reduced? Have the divorce rate reduced? Has domestic violence stopped? Except for revenue loss, what else have changed for the better during the last 30 years? Unfortunately, NLTP could not curb the menace of alcoholism. Instead of curbing corruption, syndicate suppliers, adulteration, and spurious drinking have killed many more young people prematurely. Both the government and the churches appear content with the sporadic seizing and destroying of liquor. However, due to tremendous demand, illegal business continue to thrive. The NLTP Act has brought numerous challenges to our state in terms of border control issues, underground economy, and has brought many negative impact to social, economic, and health issues, health risk of our people. I'd like to specify with points in terms of social impact, rise in illegal drinking, health risk from spurious liquor, criminalization of social drinking, strain on families' financial resources due to high black market price. In terms of economic impact, it has brought loss to state revenue, loss of potential excise revenue, increased enforcement and expenditure, impact on tourism and hospitality sector, and growth of black market in underground economy. Also, in terms of health, the consumption of spurious liquor leading to our health hazards, limited access to regulated quality alcohol, development of alternative substance abuse. Nagaland's geographical location, sharing borders with Assam, Manipur, and Arunachal Pradesh, makes it vulnerable to liquor smuggling. Without the Act, effective implementation such as licensing, monitoring of sales, ensuring that alcohol is also can be sell safely and responsibly. Lastly, I would conclude by saying prohibition would be bad, but could be good or bad, but it is entirely determined by people's attitude and mindset towards alcohol usage. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be representing the host village, that is Tuknasami village, and today I will be speaking on motion for the NLTP Act of 1989. I believe that if the government take serious measures in implementing this act, there will be some changes, though it may not be a drastic change, but somehow there will be peace and harmony in our state, which I believe is the ultimate goal of every human being in this world. And as a Christian state where 90% of the population belongs to Christian community, inclusive of every denomination, and when we look back in history, we find that our forefathers, they have declared our state as Nagaland for Christ. And if the government implement this act or legalize the sale of liquor in every corner of our society, we are indirectly defying our forefathers' God's promises to God. And keeping aside the religious point of view, we see that in our state there has been lots of accidents which are related to or caused due to alcohol consumption. And this is just a highlight issue about alcohol consumption. There are various issues such as social evils which is destroying families and societies. Last but not the least, I believe that the government's main reason for lifting this act is for revenue generation. But as I mentioned earlier, if our state is in peaceful and harmony condition, we will naturally attract more tourists. So in this way, the government, they can generate more revenue and more income for the development of our state. So I believe that the government should focus more on the development of ecotourism, in which we can generate more income. So with this enough saying, I believe that there are no valid reasons for the government to leave this NLTP Act. Thank you.
Greetings to you all. I am speaking as serial number 8, and today I stand in against the motion. The NLTP Act was made to stop the people from drinking alcohol in Nagaland. But even though this act has been around for a while, it hasn't really worked. People are still drinking and the problems related to alcohol consumption are still happening in our society. This shows that the law hasn't been enforced well or that it is not effective in solving the problems. And despite the NLTP Act been existing for over 3 decades now, it hasn't really achieved its intended objectives. And because of NLTP Act Prohibition of alcohol, a black market for alcohol has grown, which means that people are selling alcohol secretly without following any rules and regulation, and this has led to so many problems, such as prices are high and economy suffers. Why? Because a black market has driven up the prices of alcohol, which means that people are spending more money on alcohol than they would if it were sold legally. And this is harming our economy as people spend more on expensive alcohol rather than on other important things. An NLTP Act, if it is to be effective, needs to be strengthened and implemented more rigorously to prevent any kind of corruption and negative consequences on our society. And when I mention corruption, I mean that instead of enforcing the NLTP Act and preventing the citizens from accessing alcohol, some law enforcement agencies might be corruptly misusing the power. They are seizing alcohol from the citizens, but instead of destroying it, they might be keeping it for themselves or selling it and using this profit for their personal or family gain. This corruption would have a negative impact on the families and generations as well, and therefore, to address ongoing issues like this, NLTP Act, which is already in place, shall be properly enforced and implemented. Historically, Nagaland had a tradition of alcohol consumption. However, with the arrival of Christianity, this tradition began to change. But unfortunately, due to the subsequent influx of alcohol from the neighboring countries, led to accessibility and consumption. And just as Christianity transformed our society, NLTP Act has the potential to revolutionize our community by making it liquor-free, but only if it is obeyed and followed by the people. And the fact that NLTP Act has been on discussion for quite a long time, since 1989, and this act introduced to Nagaland Assembly, it has now been 36 years, which means it is high time for us to reflect on the effectiveness of the NLTP Act and assess whether it is just merely existing on the paper or whether it is serving its intended purpose. However, NLTP Act has mixed results and its effectiveness has been cautioned. While this act has been existing for such a long time, it seems that it has largely remained on paper with limited success in achieving its intended objectives. And some of the reasons that suggest why NLTP Act has not been effective are widespread availability of liquor and limited enforcement. And despite the NLTP Act aims and objectives at promoting our society as liquor-free community, the reality of our society today is depressing.
I'm representing Sky Students Union and I'll be speaking for the motion. The NLTP Act of 1989, the Nagaland Act number 4 of 1990. Let us first look into the 4 objectives of this act. The first is to totally prohibit the possession. The second is to the sale and consumption. The third is the manufacture, and the fourth is import and export thereof in alcohol in the state of Nagaland. Nagaland is a Christian state. Half of the population is against this NLTP Act. The act which is keeping a check on alcoholism and the evil that comes along with it. But what does Bible really tells us about this alcoholism? In the book of Proverbs, Isaiah and Galatians, you will find how it tells us about to stay away from the evil of alcoholism. Noah, one of the noble characters in the Bible, he was a good man, but alcohol made him look like fool. Lot, he was a social drinker, and because of this, in these 2 occasions, his 2 daughters committed incest with him, but he was not even aware of it. Now, my worthy opponents, they have said, what good has this NLTP Act done? Let me remind you or let me highlight the achievements of NLTP. First is societal benefit. So how is the society benefiting from this NLTP? There is a term called domestic violence. So according to World Health Organization, 50% of this domestic violence is occurring because of alcohol or under the influence of alcohol. Now, second is decrease in alcohol-related death. In Nagaland itself, in a year, more than 400 deaths are being reported because of alcohol, or more than 400 patients are being admitted in hospital because of alcohol issues. Now, decrease in crimes and violence. Like my friend said, violence like abuse or road accidents are happening. Fifth is safeguards human life. My worthy opponents, they have also said to generate revenue from this NLTP or alcohol. But let me tell you, my friend, this NLTP Act values human life over potential revenue from alcohol sales. 6, preserves our Naga identity as a Christian. 7 is serenity in educational institution. Again, my worthy opponents, they say that they got addicted to alcohol at the early age. Just imagine, even with this NLTP Act, they're getting addicted at the early age. What will happen if this Act is repealed? Even class 1-2 students will get addicted to alcohol because it will be available in the market. Again, my worthy opponents said the church should also focus in giving salvation to individual. My dear friend, the church is focusing on that because if you have known the alcohol and the evil that comes with it, you ought to have known the evil that comes with alcohol and it causes. Now, if this NLTP Act is repealed, for the past 35 years, we have seen what this Act has done for our state. It has kept a check on the chaos. Even with this NLTP, there are chaos. If this Act is repealed, it will not lead to growth of Nagaland, but it will lead to our downfall. Thank you.
I'm serial number 10 and I will be speaking against this NLTP Act 1989. Let me start with a quote. Prohibition only drives drunkenness behind doors and into dark places and does not cure it or even diminish it. Mark Twain. It is very well known that NLTP Act was brought for noble intentions, but at the same time again, it is also very well known fact that NLTP Act is a total failure and has caused many negative impacts. Let's look on different reasons and perspectives on why I believe this NLTP Act is a failure and must be lifted. So speaking from a point of personal freedom, I think this NLTP Act is a total infringement upon the personal liberty because things like what a person eats and what a person consumes fall strictly under the domain of personal liberty. It also violates Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which states that no person shall be deprived of his or her liberty, and so it is an infringement upon the personal liberty. Even speaking in terms of divine perspective, one of the greatest gifts that God has given to each and every human being is the freedom of choice. And this freedom to choose includes what we drink and what we consume. And although consumption of liquor may be injurious to health, God himself did never enforce it on anyone on what to eat or drink. So whether it be the society, whether it be the churches, or whether it be the government trying to legally impose restrictions on consumptions is futile and will always go in vain, just like the NLTP Act 1989. Now, let's look at some practical realities and the impact we're having as a result of NLTP Act 1989. It is just a simple fact, proven with excitement, not only in our state, but almost everywhere around the world, that prohibition does not help combat this consumption. And when we already know that this NLTP Act is never gonna work, why do we have to keep on prolonging our misery? Let's take one very practical example. In over 30 years of prohibition, is there anyone who can testify they have given up on alcohol because of this NLTP Act? Or do you know anyone who have given up on alcohol and have changed their life for better cause? I don't believe so. There is still none. Now, you may as well say that this prohibition is not eradicating all these evils. Yes, prohibition is not eradicating all these evils in society. But how will lifting this prohibition? I'm sorry, I got lost in track. There are ways and steps that can be. Okay, since my time is limited, I would like to end with a line or two. This NLTP Act is only reason to the emergence of all these black marketings, promoting bootleggers and smugglers, increasing corruption, where there is an extortion, where there is a nexus between the law enforcement agencies and these bootleggers and smugglers. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My serial number is 13 and I'm representing Nikto unit. Today, I'll be speaking in favor of NLTP Act 1989. So, the NLTP Act of 1989, as we all know, was formed by the government of Nagaland, but it was initiated by the churches, that is MBCC Church, which is the mother church of all the Baptist churches, alongside the mother organizations or the women organizations, in order to reduce the consumption of liquor in Nagaland. So, why did they reduce, or why did they implement this act? Was in order to bridge the gap between God and the people of Nagaland. We call ourselves Christians, but the people of Nagaland were drifting away from the fact that we should not be consuming liquor, as it is a social evil in Nagaland, and it will prove in creating hazards in our life as well. And also, my fellow opponents have also stated that this act should be lifted, or this act should be removed. But if we remove this act, or if we lift up this act, if we leave this act, more accidents or more social evils will eventually come up, because this act is somehow or in some way it's preventing the social evils or many issues rising in Nagaland. And lastly, I would also like to say, despite the presence of NLTP Act in Nagaland, people still consumes liquor. So if this act is lifted, or if this act is removed, people will consume liquor in a very excessive manner, and it will even go beyond our imagination. So I believe that this act should not be removed for the safeguard of the people of Nagaland. Thank you.
A very good evening to everyone present here, respected our panel of judges. My serial number is 12 and I'm against side. The topic of our debate is Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act 1989. But let me first highlight how this act came into existence. The Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act 1889, the Nagaland Act number 4 of on 13 April 1890, represented by the Governor of Nagaland, and it came into established an existence on 23rd April 1990. So my topic is on against side. So I will be discussing on 5 or 6 points. Firstly, due to this NLTP Act, there are many black market in Nagaland, where we find in every corner place in Nagaland there is a selling of alcohol, and many young men are into it. We also have a superior liquor, where we say Nagaland is a Christian state, but near Nagaland there is a somewhere we get a syndicate materials, and there the materials are mixed with acidic, so it is also giving a superior liquor, and which causes to a health hazard. My third point is economic life. There are many families in our state where both husband and wife are unemployed. So families like this, we had to do a business, and then we say that Nagaland for Christ, but many families do this kind of business and protect their families as well. It also brings a corruption in our life. Here in Nagaland Liquor Total Prohibition Act, it talks about liquor prohibition, but not drug use. So many of our youngsters are addicted to drugs as well due to this NLTP Act. Personal freedom. In fundamental rights, there is Article 19 to 20, where it talks about the personal freedom. It is my freedom, my responsibility, your responsibility, whether you wanted to be an alcoholic or you want to take your life ahead. Not even this NLTP can do anything. Thank you.
The NLTP Act has been initially implemented with a positive intention. I personally favor the NLTP to continue. However, if this prohibition is lifted, there might not be a significant increase in the alcohol-related health issues. Legalizing this sale would allow the government to regulate the industry, ensuring safer consumption through quality control, quality assurance, and reducing the consumption of illicit liquor, which poses a serious health risk. My opinion on the positive outcomes are cultural and religion. So NLTP is deeply rooted in cultural and moral values of Nagaland. And Nagaland being a Christian state and with attack Nagaland for Christ, this has kept its principle of Christianity and keeping the Christian state alive. And my second point is public health and safety. The ban on this, the ban has curbed the evil of alcohol abuse and its consequences, such as domestic violence and financial burden on the family as well. And as my worthy opponent has said about the family doing black market, so is this the only way that we can earn money? We can earn in so many ways, and such as doing local business and doing some handicraft, and we should always prioritize our economic our economic development. And yeah, instead of just relaxing and lifting this prohibition, this act should be fully implemented with a stringent measure. Thank you.
Good evening all, I'm representing Khivi village and I will be speaking against NLTP Act. Nagaland Total Liquor Prohibition Act, popularly known as NLTP Act of 1989, was first proposed by NBCC, Nagaland Baptist Church Council and Women's Society, firstly in and around the year 1969. Later, it was introduced in the Nagaland Legislative Assembly in 1989 under the pressure of NBCC and then passed by the Assembly on 29 March 1990. Well, I was told debate is all about facts, and hence I will be supporting my statement with facts. According to National Family Health Survey conducted between 2019 and 2021, 31% of men aged 15 to 45 in Nagaland consume alcohol, compared to national average of 22.4%. Among women in the same age group, 1.4% consume alcohol in Nagaland, compared to double the national average of 0.7. Nagaland also ranks in 14th position in alcohol consumption among the 28 states and 8 union territories of India. So can we still say that NLTP is working? NLTP has, as said earlier, NLTP has resulted in loss of state revenue, one of the main sources of government income, and hence has led to economic stagnation in Nagaland. If NLTP is revoked, there will be economic boost in the state, and when there is economic boost in the state, it is followed by development in infrastructure, healthcare, and public welfare schemes, which is most needed in our state. Coming back to facts, in 2019, a report titled Magnitude of Substance Use in India indicated that 8.1% of Nagaland's population consume alcohol. Between the age of 10 to 75% consume alcohol. These figures highlight that despite there being a prohibition of alcohol in the state's alcohol consumption rate is higher than the national average. Some questions which can be raised from the points are highlighted are, has the alcohol consumption greatly decreased in the state of Nagaland after the implementation of NLTP Act? No. Is there an effective implementation of this act in the state of Nagaland? No. Is alcohol available to and consumed by minors below the age of 18 in the state of Nagaland? No. Are liquors being sold openly in restaurants, shops, and clubs in the state of Nagaland despite there being a prohibition? Yes. So why is NLTP still in effect despite its failure to bring about any notable changes in the Naga society over the past 3 years? Even though there is prohibition, people are still buying and drinking alcohol illegally. If a person wants to drink, he will through any means. So we should all now confront the fact that NLTP has failed to serve its purpose in the Naga society. Thank you all.
I am serial number 17 and I'll be speaking in favor of the motion, that is the NLTP Act of 1989. Now, Nagaland is a state of Christian majority population, and we the Nagas, our principles is based on avoiding alcohol, and this NLTP Act aligns with our moral values, that is promoting the a responsible, disciplined society and individuals. The past speaker has mentioned about the survey which was done by the National Family Health Survey in the year between 2019 to 2021, where she has mentioned that 31% of male in Nagaland age group from 15 to 49 consumes alcohol, and 1.4% of females in the same age group consume alcohol. Now, if that is the data that is provided, we can imagine without this NLTP Act, the number could have been more and the number of alcohol consumers in the state could have been more. Now, to address the domestic violence, poverty, public disturbances, and short-lived life from liver failure, which is caused due to the alcohol addiction and its abuse. The influence of alcohol abuse is more than normalizing its use during occasions. The women and children are the victims of the alcohol abuse, resulting in broken homes, family, and relationships among the people. The fact that alcohol is a common influence among the youths, this NLTP is strengthening and binding the youths from being influenced by the alcohol and the people surrounding promoting the alcohol. Well, the collective welfare of the society is more important over individual influence and perspective. And so by implementing this NLTP Act in our state, we are setting an example to our neighboring regions to consider taking measures addressing the societal impact of alcohol. It is also written in the Article 47 of Directive Principle of State Policy, which encourages the prohibition of drinks and intoxicating substances in the state. Our state implementing this act, we are moving a step towards that constitutional directive provided by the state government and the central government. And about the revenue, there are so many alternate ways of generating revenue in the state, be it tourism, agriculture, and handicrafts. The argument of generating revenue in the state through alcohol is just a selfish interest of individuals to remove this act. And also the health and social benefit which is gained from prohibiting alcohol in the state. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am serial number 18. I'll be speaking, I think, last. I'm serial number 18. So jumping straight to the point, NLTP, its relevance actually. Is it still relevant? Because as my opponents were saying, alcohol is available everywhere. So the conversation ends there. I would say the conversation ends there because they support this act, which is NLTP, but the NLTP Act itself is supposed to ban the sale of alcohol as well, but it's available everywhere. Has the act not failed? If you think about it, has the act not failed? Because alcohol is available everywhere. It beats the purpose, and honestly, it's just they're just talking about, they're just defending something that's already lost, to be honest. And economically, everybody is talking about economics. So let's talk about economics a little bit. If the excise department itself, even if the NLTP Act is already in action, the excise department already earns around 10 lakhs annually in its revenue for alcohol, like illegal alcohol taxation. So if the act was abolished, or let's say if the act was just say taken down, then won't our revenue benefit a lot more from that? From 10 lakhs, just imagine we can benefit a lot more if we are to abolish this act. And speaking historically, of course, during the 80s and the 90s, it was very relevant because Nagaland itself was in a mess, I should say. People were fighting everywhere. People were fighting between themselves. People were fighting with the governments and all. So it was the church and the women. They actually came together to propose this act, NLTP. They proposed this act and it was imposed, but to be honest, it was never, the wheels never turned, or so I should say. And even talking about religious side, everybody is talking about the Bible condemns being drunk, but the Bible never condemns drinking. And to be honest, it's the choice of the person. It's his willpower to also, if he wants to drink or not. And it's also like it is upon the person if he chooses to drink and be violent, or if he chooses to just drink and be violent and cause domestic violence, or just have the willpower to keep to himself. And I think that's all. Thank you.